0% of physician executives said their organization's technology strategies are at the leading edge of innovation.
Physicians are 100% on board with technology, but only if it genuinely improves patient care.
We're seeing levels of burnout that we simply hadn't seen before.
Do you feel that better tech integration could help ease some of this burden?
Yes. Whether or not it will remains to be seen.
Is there a doctor in the house? Hi, I'm Jill Wiltfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into topics that corporate leaders need to care about. If you've ever needed to see a doctor urgently, you may be familiar with the unsettling experience of having to wait weeks or even months before one becomes available. In most industries, when the labor supply can't keep up with demand like this, technology usually steps in to fill the gap. But a Korn Ferry survey of 345 physician executives discovered a shocking reality to the contrary. 0% of respondents said their organization's technology strategies are at the leading edge of innovation. Of all industries, this lack of high-tech rigor is most disturbing in healthcare, perhaps because doctors and nurses, after all, are trying to save or extend lives. Wouldn't we want their methods to be as high-tech as possible? So today we'll look at why it's such a bear to get this industry more up to speed, both to treat and even see patients. We'll also explore what medical leaders can do to solve this clinical conundrum that affects so many, because sooner or later, we all end up asking, is there a doctor in the house? Before we start, if you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts on this topic. With us now are Jim Vincoli, Vice President in Korn Ferry's Global Healthcare Practice, and Charlie Falcone, Director of Korn Ferry's Physician Leadership Institute. Both of them work extensively with medical institution leaders to solve their most pressing problems. Great to have both of you on the show today.
Thanks, Jill.
Before we dive into the specifics of this issue, Jim, set the stage for us. On the one hand, healthcare tends to operate on really slim margins of around 3%. So reluctance to adding a big technology expense is understandable. But on the flip side, the cost of doing nothing, I imagine, could be far worse in terms of lost revenue from patients perhaps going unseen. So where do physician executives stand on this issue of integrating more tech solutions?
Yeah, Jill, we surveyed 345 physician executives, as you'd mentioned, across the U.S. health systems. And the message really was clear, and that it's patients first and technology second. Physicians are 100% on board with technology, but only if it genuinely improves patient care and supports those delivering it. But this implementation isn't just about efficiency. There's more to it. It's about really reigniting what many physician respondents states as the joy of practicing medicine.
Burnout has been cited as a really big reason why roughly 35% of physicians surveyed said they're likely to leave their current roles in the next 5 years. Charlie, you began your career as a physician yourself, and you've said that one reason for the increasing burnout has been that many of the doctors who came into medicine in the 80s and 90s have been supplanted by physicians who view themselves as kind of 9-to-5 employees for private equity-backed health systems. Unpack that a little bit for me.
If you look at the misalignment between values and daily work and what physicians want out of their careers now versus perhaps what physicians were thinking when they truly viewed it as a calling, if you will. I'm not here to say that a lot of physicians today aren't in it for the right reason, but the way we think about the daily work, the way we think about what it is to be a practicing physician has changed tremendously. We're seeing levels of burnout and dissatisfaction and disengagement that we simply hadn't seen before in the past.
As people get processed through, they become a bit of a blur. We don't see them in all their biology and their backstory. Our response then is to their common characteristics. So here's the treatment that we give people with diabetes. Here's the treatment that we give people with hypertension. And the job is not to care for people like you. The job is to care for you.
That's Dr. Victor Montori, an endocrinologist and co-founder of the Patient Revolution Initiative, talking about how the quality of patient care often devolves into a one-size-fits-all strategy. Of course, inserting better technology into this process might help, and healthcare workers seem to agree, with one study finding that 85% of healthcare professionals worldwide believe organizations need to invest in new or better technology to improve patient outcomes. So, Charlie, in your talks with physician executives, what are they doing to move the needle forward on technology?
A lot of the physicians I work with, whether it's advising them or working with clients in general, there's still this hesitation, this trepidation to accept the fact, frankly, that healthcare has changed. Healthcare is changing. Technology will change the way we think about how we're delivering healthcare. I think that it's going to help change care for the better. But through those developments of cultures of innovation, we're going to be thinking about the way we do things in a very different way. And that's going to cause stress. We talked earlier a bit about burnout and other challenges and issues. Technology is a big part of that, because anytime you bring in new technologies to an organization, there's going to be a lot of learning that goes on.
Looking at the leaders themselves, we've talked a little bit about blending. A growing number of healthcare systems are merging roles too, right? The chief medical officer role now merging with the chief operating officer role. And Jim, you've said that having the chief medical officer in the C-suite is critical when it comes to furthering tech innovation. Why is that?
88% of physician executives in our survey said they want a larger seat at the executive table. And that combined chief medical officer, chief operational officer role is intriguing, because if a physician leader isn't at the table, tech decisions can get too far down the road without that clinical voice. And Charlie and I have seen systems invest in technology that looks great on paper, but doesn't really translate to the bedside. And the physician leader bridges that gap.
Nice.
They are the only one in the room thinking deeply about both clinical and operational excellence. And in that sense, that clinical leadership team can help vet whether a tool will actually improve care or just add to the noise.
Jim, Charlie, really good to have you both on today to talk about this issue. It really will affect all of us at some point or another. So a healthy, good discussion.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Jill.
We've looked at the lack of tech innovation largely from the healthcare systems perspective. After the break, we'll speak with an expert from the Association of American Medical Colleges to see how it's impacting the physician side of things. So stay with us.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Leadership. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business.
What exactly is vibe coding and why it's so game-changing?
The latest trend in generative AI to find its way into the workplace? Vibe coding. It refers to when people use AI to generate code simply from their text or voice prompts. The good news is workers may no longer have to write the actual code to build an app. However, experts caution that without proper organizational vetting, vibe coding could become shadow IT at its worst.
Apply to 1,000 jobs in the time that it normally takes to apply to 10.
Half of UK-based graduates seeking jobs are using AI to write their applications, up from 38% in 2024. In response, some firms have adopted a decidedly retro approach, requesting in-person interviews so they can discover who really has the required skills for the job and who may have been leaning a bit too much on AI.
The redefinition of the partnership between the CHRO and the CIO or CDIO or CTO.
2/3 of tech leaders say they're experiencing friction with HR counterparts over issues such as talent acquisition, strategic direction, resources, tech acumen, and more. The reason? As digital and workforce transformation brings CTOs and CHROs into greater contact, the relationship between the two functions is undergoing some growing pains. For more insights from This Week in Leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights. Now back to Jill and our episode. Is there a doctor in the house?
A doctor's mission should be not just to prevent death, but also to improve the quality of life. That's why you treat a disease, you win, you lose. You treat a person, I guarantee you'll win.
We started this conversation talking about the lack of technological innovation in healthcare, but now let's focus on the people who are perhaps feeling the greatest burden in all of this, doctors. Joining me to discuss is Michael Dill, Director of Workforce Studies at the Association of American Medical Colleges. Michael, thanks for being here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
That last clip we just saw featured the late Robin Williams in the movie Patch Adams, giving an impassioned speech about the quality of medical care that doctors should be giving. But with nearly half of physicians experiencing some form of burnout, it does seem a little easier said than done. Earlier, we referenced our study finding that 0% of physician executives said their organization's technology strategies are at the leading edge of innovation. Do you feel that better tech integration could help ease maybe at least some of this burden?
Do I feel that it could? Yes. Yes, I do. Whether or not it will remains to be seen. There are a lot of people throwing AI at everything to see what sticks, and that's not really the best approach. I have seen at least one good study that showed that the use of AI, specifically ambient AI during visits to help take notes, etc., does help reduce physician burnout, and that's a huge, huge thing. I haven't seen the follow-up research that tells me how good the notes taken by the ambient AI is in the long run overall. I want to see more data and research, though, before I say anything definitive about it.
You have said that this burnout is actually causing many doctors to kind of just switch. Like that's the level, I think, of discomfort they've got. So they're switching from full-time to locum tenens, effectively making them contractors, right, with greater flexibility over their hours, but who also may be more costly for hospitals. So is more locum tenens a trend that you expect to continue? And just like this technology, there's a downside to that. Are there any downsides to this in your view? Like disruption to patient-doctor relationships or lack of follow-up on patient care? Are there risks that you see here?
I think it's likely we will see more of that. In some specialties more than others, but we will definitely, I think, see more of that, at least for a little while. And yes, it creates problems. You do see reduced coordination and less integration of the teams of folks with whom you work. If you think about it, it just makes sense. Right. If you're working on a team of folks, working with them day in and day out over extended periods of time is going to lead you to a place where you work together better, more efficiently, and usually producing higher quality outputs as well, regardless of your profession. Right. And so you're going to see, that happening less if you've just got, temps coming in and coming out. And it increases costs. Of course it does.
While the physician shortage is a crisis today, there is reason to believe it's going to get a lot worse unless we take immediate actions to address it. Consider that nearly half of all practicing physicians in the US today are over age 55, getting close to retirement. And while medical school applications are up and some new schools are coming online, it can take a decade or more to educate and train a physician.
That's Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld, president of the American Medical Association, talking about the current physician shortage crisis. Michael, as Dr. Ehrenfeld hints at here, and as you've said, contrary to what some may think, the production of new physicians is actually increasing, but it's just not fast enough. What are some of the solutions currently being explored to fill the gap faster?
The first thing that I'll mention shouldn't come as a surprise, which is we're trying to train more physicians. We definitely need to do that. We're also looking at ways to incorporate other healthcare team members. I mean, good examples of that are nurse practitioners and physician associates who can take on a lot of the care that needs to be provided, tasks associated with the care that needs to be provided, et cetera, and free up physicians' time. Technology solutions are being tried. How effective they are being in sort of addressing the shortage is up in the air, I would say.
How would you say, are you feeling bullish or bearish on our ability in the next, let's say, 10 years to kind of sort out this technology issue and improve care?
I am, say, cautiously optimistic that we will find some ways to deploy technology to help. But I want you and everybody else to keep in mind that healthcare is fundamentally a human-to-human interaction. That's just the nature of any caring, right? Without enough people to do that caring, you're never really going to solve the problem. And so we definitely need to focus more on the people than the technology in terms of finding long-term sustainable solutions.
Michael, thank you so much for shedding your light and bringing your perspective on this issue. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya and Zachary Dorr. And it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time. I feel tired today. I guess it's Monday. We should be tired, right?